Stay tuned through the end of the episode for a special catch-up with Hope.
Most people at the end of the day are good and want good for themselves and their families and their communities. And I think we have to believe that and just be like, this is what we're going to do for you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
help us, help us help you. I love him dearly, but we don't agree on everything and
Mm-hmm.
we shouldn't. And he tells me
Right.
that. Like, I am my own person. I am, a young person. I'm a woman in today's world. And having, my own identity is incredibly important. I think that's what we saw in New York. There was policies put forth that are going to make people's lives better, and it gave people something to fight for, not just something to fight against. It's very clear Donald Trump has some weird thing going on regarding my dad. Wants revenge for something. I don't really understand because they won last year. So
Today we have a really special guest. She is a digital creator. She is a fellow skier and lover of mountains. Our guest is Hope Walz. She is the daughter of Governor Tim Walz. And on today's show, we talk about joy as resistance. We talk about skiing and really taking the time to heal after great loss. Hope, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here, and I'm just really honored that you took the time to be with us today.
thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
How are you doing today? What's going on over in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I woke up early, and I live at like 5,000 feet elevation. So I was literally in a cloud this morning. I could see like 10 feet in front of me driving, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of scary. But now the sun's coming out. So it's good.
I also live at high elevation. I live at about 7,000 in
Oh,
northern New Mexico,
oh, where at?
in Santa Fe.
Oh, that is one of my dad's favorite cities. I've never been
No
there, but he
way.
always talks about it. Yep.
Well, it's nice to like formally or officially meet you, but we
Yeah.
we met very briefly. I don't know if you recall. So last year I worked on the Harris
Yeah.
Walls campaign.
Oh, yeah.
I was the Native American engagement director running
Okay.
that coalition,
Mhm.
and we met. We met. It was chaotic. So like, no worries if you don't remember, but it was definitely for me the most chaotic couple of days and day in particular. I believe that
Yeah.
day we were in, I think, 3 states. We went
Mm.
from Nevada to New Mexico to Arizona, and it was just a wild. Do you remember that day?
It was, we went to Window Rock, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, we were
Yes,
in
yes, yes,
Navajo
yes.
Nation. Yeah.
Yes, I remember taking, like, a propeller plane, which I'd never
Mhm.
taken before, and being very afraid of the propeller plane, and then we landed and then had to drive quite a while, but it was just so beautiful, and I'd never been to that part of the country before, um,
Mm.
so that is actually one of the days that, like, sticks in my head just because it was so, like, "Oh my gosh, this is so beautiful," and, like, just the culture and just so amazing, and I had never experienced anything like it before. So it was really, really fun and something, that my dad and I often go back and talk about, actually.
Aw, that's really good to hear. I mean, yeah, it was definitely a memorable day for me. I remember, on that propeller plane, you were sitting next to Senator Kelly of
Yes,
Arizona.
of Arizona. Yes, my dad, I can't remember if he was, like, in the car before or where we're on the plane, but my dad is like, "Do you get motion sickness, Senator?" And he looked at him and he goes, "I'm an astronaut. Of course I don't." And my dad's like, "Oh, yeah, I kind of, didn't really think of that one." And then he was, like, on his, star app or planet app on his phone outside the plane window, and he's like, "I like to see where everything
Hilarious.
is." And we're like, "Oh, you're so cool."
Also that day sticks out to me, and it really, obviously I was dedicated, I was committed to winning in that moment, and, I was dedicated to the team. And that day though, like, really solidified for me, like, just how much your dad cared
Mm.
for, like, the various constituencies,
Yeah.
on our way to actually, it was our morning briefing in Las Vegas where we had
Yes.
started our day.
Yes.
We were giving, like, a rundown of the day and sharing, what was gonna happen, and we were going over, some talking points, and your dad turns to me and he goes, "When we're in Navajo, um, when we're in Navajo Nation, I think I wanna talk about, the code talkers. I think I wanna talk about the way that Trump disrespected those code talkers
Mhm.
when he brought them in that room with the Lincoln photo behind him, or the
Mhm.
Andrew Jackson photo is one of those
Yeah.
presidents. Anyways, he was just like, and I think is that a good thing to bring up? And it was just this moment where I was like, wow, I didn't even think of that as a talking point. And
Yeah.
it's kind of off cuff. Like your dad obviously had just like remembered that and kept that memory and then
Mhm.
just brought it up. And it was, again, it was just this moment where I was like, wow, this guy really, he really cares. He's really like
Yeah.
grounded and he's reflecting on, the community that we're about to be in. And it just really made me like a Tim Walz stan. I was
Yeah.
just like, wow, this guy, he better win.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think one of the things that, like, I am most proud of, not just even from last year and, like, being on that campaign, but just in general, is my dad's relationship with staff and how
Mhm.
everybody on the campaign trail, like so many people said to us, like, he is what you think he is. And, the what you see is what you get with him. And we feel so valued around him. And like that is something he often talks about. Like you're working as a team and everybody is of equal value. And
Mhm.
just like seeing the relationships and how he engages with the people around him, but then also in his communities is like it's something that I look up to him regarding. And we often talked about on the trail, like this, we would see signs on the side of the road, and I'd be like, "Can you believe that you're running to represent these people?" He goes, "Yeah," and it makes me emotional. I'm so proud that I am having the opportunity to potentially
Yeah.
represent all of these amazing, Americans. And so that's awesome that you say that because I kind of feel the same way about that. And it was just so cool watching him like form different relationships with different people and communities all throughout the country.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I felt that 1000% because we did the Window Rock event, and then the day after, we were in Las Vegas, and there was this big tribal nations conference called,
Mhm.
NCAI or,
I remember this.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and he, in that day, met maybe hundreds of tribal representatives, tribal leaders, tribal citizens, and it was just remarkable to see, at least, like, tribal leaders from Minnesota. He, like, knew by name,
Oh,
first
yeah.
name, and just was like it was really beautiful to see, and it's just a part of his nature, right?
Yeah, it's definitely who he is, and I think he would tell you his work with, tribal communities in Minnesota is, like,
Mm,
something he's most proud of. Like, he always talks about how, the leaders of those communities are, they're working together with him because they are their own thing,
mhm.
um, and he's put a lot of emphasis, like, on that work, and I think it would be something he would say that he's, most proud of, and the progress that they've made. And so that's like, I'm happy to hear that you feel that it translated like
Oh, yeah.
nationwide because it's something that he is really passionate and focused on.
You were recently featured in, I thought a really beautiful New York Times
Yeah.
profile, and, in that article, you spoke about that time, your dad
Hmm.
being the vice presidential nominee as
Yeah.
one of the most wild times in your life. Why was this so particularly wild for you?
Yeah. So my dad has been like in politics, you could
Mhm,
say, since I was in kindergarten. So I was like 6 years old. Um, but I think once you get on like a national campaign, it's like a whole nother ball game. And it was not ever anything that I'd experienced before. And so just like being in it in such an intense way, because I think everything about last fall was a little bit insane for everybody involved. Um, and so I think just being engaged in that way was like kind of eye opening and also just like, whoa, like this is how things are.
Mm.
But it was also just like so fun going, well, we spent most of our time in 7 states, and that's another kind of conversation to have. But we traveled the country and
Battleground states.
yes, the battleground states. But we traveled the country and like experienced the country in ways that I had never done before. And that
Mm.
was just a really special and cool thing. And I always like to say, like, I saw the best of America and like the people and the places. And it was just such a special thing to be able to do it with my dad, and do it in the midst of like a historic fall.
Mhm. When you say, you realized when you guys kind of went to that national level,
Mhm.
you were like, "Ooh, this is how things are."
Yeah.
What's something that sticks out for you that was like, this is new, this is a learning. I didn't realize this is how things go."
Yeah, I think just like the infrastructure around
Mm.
it, like staffing wise, like there's people in, every place we're going that know so, so, so much, as well as like the even this is like kind of surface level, but just like the travel infrastructure, like the
Oh,
plane.
yeah.
We're getting on and off the plane, and then there's, the cars at every stop. And like everything, it's like a well-oiled machine. And I felt like we were just thrown into it. And they're like, okay, this is it now, figure it out. And that was like kind of a, oh my gosh, we're just gonna, take it in stride type of moment.
Yeah, I think that the average person doesn't realize, there is this whole operation with
Yeah.
campaigns. It's called Advance, and they're managing, every single little detail, logistic detail, and just ensuring that the whole thing runs super smoothly. But they're a whole separate kind of body outside of, the
Yes.
campaign staff,
Hmm.
and they're planning the snacks, they're planning everything.
Yes. Yes, we told them, like, all of our favorites, and then they're everywhere. Every room you walk into, there's Dots Pretzels, and there's Diet Mountain Dew,
Diet
and
Mountain
there's
Dew.
yes, and there's kombucha. I told somebody I liked kombucha once, and I had kombucha in every fridge, which is wonderful, but
You were saying, you got to kind of see the best of the country. What are some of the memories, or what's a memory that sticks out to you the most from that time?
yeah, I think so. I've been now finally kind of working through everything and like
Mm.
thinking about it. It took me a while to get to a place to like be okay to look at pictures from
Oh,
a year
yeah.
ago and whatnot. Um, but I think like something that specifically sticks out is like the rope line. So the rope line is like after events when the candidates go and like meet people kind of that were at the front,
Mhm.
and like shake hands and talk to people. And I would often join my dad on those or at least like linger towards near him just to,
Yeah.
be a part of it. And just watching him have those interactions, but also having like interactions with people myself. Because I think my dad and I kind of became known as like this sort of partnership because I did travel with him like almost entirely full time until people, would be like, Hope, oh my gosh, like, we think you're so amazing. Like, we love your style. The work you do. Like, and that was a really kind of interesting thing because I'd never had any sort of platform at all. And then all of a sudden, like,
Mm.
people in North Carolina know who I am and want to talk to me. And just having those interactions. I remember we were in Asheville. It was before the hurricane.
Right.
Um, at this like really really amazing place that ended up getting destroyed, which was just horrible, but it was like this outdoor venue. And we were talking to this woman and like she had a hat on that's like I support Gus's dad, and was
Aw.
talking about how she had um like a son or a kid with like learning disabilities and special needs, and just how seeing that on the national stage was so hopeful for them, knowing that there's
Mm.
someone in their corner. And that was like a really, really special moment for me. And I had so many of those just throughout the entire thing. And I think those will stick with me for my entire life.
You mentioned it, taking some time to be able to, like, process everything, and
Yeah.
rightfully so, like, it's so much, it was so fast, it was so intense.
I think I still like bounce back and forth between, honestly, probably like
Mm,
all the stages of grief, as
yep,
I'm sure a lot of people that were involved and just, connected to it and just
exactly.
generally do. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that anger come up, like, I think every time that and it's almost every day now, but
Yes.
every time there's, an attack on, you know, Americans and
Yes.
disenfranchised communities, disadvantaged
Hmm.
communities, everything we're seeing play out with all of these really awful, racist,
Yeah.
misogynistic policy, that anger comes back a bit, but
Totally.
I have to ask, and, very on brand with the podcast, did that make you jaded at all, and how have you been moving through those feelings?
Yeah. I think I like overall I've likely lived a pretty like sheltered life. And so in my eyes,
Mm.
I'm like, oh, everything works out. The good guys win. Like, of course we're
Mm.
gonna win. Like, that's just how it happens. And then when we didn't, it was kind of like a wake-up call for me. And I'm like, oh, like that's not the case. And
Mhm.
we have so much work we have to do just to help people survive now. Um,
Mhm.
and so definitely, there's definitely moments where I find myself being like, does it even matter? And then I'm like, of course it matters. Of course it matters. There's still so much we can do every single day that make people's lives better. So, of course, but there are definitely moments, especially I think when we just see ridiculousness and, evilness on the national level, when I feel really heavy because I feel somewhat responsible just because I was so closely involved. Um, and sometimes it's hard to pull myself out of that because I'm like, this is a nightmare for so, so many people.
Yep.
Um, and at the end of the day, like we didn't win, we failed, right? Um, but I can't look at it as a failure. I have to look at it, as an opportunity to, do things differently going forward.
I mean, just kind of riffing off of that, what should we be doing differently in your opinion? And especially from your point of view as,
Yeah.
like, someone who now has a platform, and, people, I
Hmm.
think people, like, look to you. So what do you think, especially, like, our side, whatever we wanna call it, the left, the progressives, the
Yeah.
progressive side, what should we be doing differently?
Yeah.
Even when it comes to the establishment, sorry.
Yes. No, 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 you're good. I always talk about how the policies of the left are popular. If you look at polling like worldwide, policies that are coming from the left, like, universal health care and all things like that, are popular.
Mhm.
I find it to be a messaging problem. Um,
Mm.
I think the right has done a really good job of kind of monopolizing, the podcast space, the news media space, the influencer like all of these spaces that have kind of grown pretty quickly. They've done a really good job of taking that over. And I think the left needs to find inroads and kind of do their own thing, as well as being like unapologetically progressive. We saw
Yep.
like in New York City, that works. Those
Yeah.
policies are popular. You say what they are and say what they're going to do for people's lives. People get on board. Like there's no reason to be wishy-washy over like who we are and what we are. We might as well just say it because it is popular and I believe that. Like most people at the end of the day are good and want good for themselves and their families and their communities, and I think we have to believe that and just be like, this is what we're going to do for you. Like
Mhm.
help us help you. um and so I really do think it's simple, but then it's not because there's so many different lanes. But like right here, this podcast, like we don't need just one Joe Rogan. We need like many of you or me or people from all of these different
Mhm.
communities like being voices.
We're trying.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
and I think people are just, like, over. yeah, exactly what you said. They want to be told the truth. They don't want to
Yes.
be like dragged along by kind of like you know, like these glorified ideas. They just want
Yeah.
like they want a living wage. Like they want
Yes.
healthcare. Like
It
um
really is simple.
yeah, exactly. So how have you we've talked about, the fact that you've been involved for so much of your life in civic engagement and
Mhm.
politics. How do you make sure that you're creating your own like political identity um with within it all and being
Yeah.
surrounded by, what you're surrounded by? How do you make sure that you're creating your own lane and your own beliefs?
Yeah. Well, I was very much raised in a way to, form my own opinions and
Mm,
be my own person. I was never told, like, this is who you are and this is what you need to believe and do. It was quite the opposite, actually.
mm,
And you're juggling the, oh, my dad's in elected office, and like there's that aspect of things. And I do like, I definitely struggle daily with people just equating me to him, like, oh, everything he
mm,
says and does is who you are. And I'm working really hard to kind of separate myself from that. I love him dearly, but we don't agree on everything, and
mhm,
we shouldn't. And he tells me
right.
that. Like, I am my own person. I am, a young person. I'm a woman in today's world. And having, my own identity is incredibly important. Um, and I think I tried to just, you know, have my own hobbies and I don't try to box myself in. I think so many people see the political world and they're like, "Oh, these families, like this is who they are and that's all they do." And with my social media, I try to be like, "No, like I live in a different state than my dad, and I do, I work at a homeless shelter and that's something that I do
Mm,
because I want to do it and because it's what I care about. And I go to hot yoga and I run because that's what I want to do with my friends." Like, I am very intentional about showing like all of me. And I think that's a big part of it because I'm not just this like one dimensional thing, which I think politicians are so good at only showing one dimension. And I'm working really hard to be like, no, I'm not a politician, but I'm, in a political family. But be like, no, we're so much more than that. And we should be so much more than that.
Well, and let's talk about that in terms of your approach to social media.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, you're building your voice there. You've gotten this huge platform in
Yeah.
a very short amount of time. What's that been like? And yeah, talk about your approach there and how how you've been choosing to use that platform.
Yeah. Well, I think I didn't post really at all during the campaign.
Right.
That was kind of a mutual decision between me and the campaign. It was just easier for everybody,
Mhm.
that I just had my private socials and I, did that. But then afterwards, I saw so many people, specifically young people, like grieving. I was like, I think I can, do something here. I think I can say something or be a part of something. And so I remember I just posted a video. It was my brother and I driving in a car. Because we with Secret Service, they were either following you all the time or you were driving with them. So it was our
Mhm.
first time, like kind of being free, as guest said. And I was like, no, it's not freedom here. But um, and it kind of the response was just like so big. Like, "Oh, it's
Mm.
so good to hear from you guys. Knowing that you guys have hope, like, gives me hope." And so I just kept posting in those initial days. I also posted one like, "It's been 3 days and I finally brushed my hair and brushed my teeth." And people related to that as well. And I was like, oh, okay. So, like, there is something here. And I kind of just kept posting. And now
Mhm.
it's been just over a year since I posted like my first, public video. Um, and it's become this like amazing community of mostly young women that are engaged in, politics and just civic life. But also like love skincare and are just, human beings. And I think it's important to show like all aspects of that. Because at the end of the day, like I'm not just, I talked about it earlier, I'm not just one thing.
Mhm. I definitely relate to that, and that's kind of my approach to as far as, like, I show my work, but then I'm also really trying to show the ways
Yeah.
I balance that, and
Yeah.
whether that's, yeah, making a video about skincare or,
Hmm.
walking my dog or whatever, whatever it is that is bringing
Yeah.
balance to my life. I think, it's so important to show those aspects because yeah, it obviously gives people insight into, like, a realness, right? And like I kept
Yeah.
or like we've been saying, people are over the
Yes.
performance. They're over
Yes, exactly. And I've talked about this before on my socials, but
Mm,
I say like joy is an act of resistance.
mm,
And so amidst like it all, all of the craziness and darkness that we see, finding joy and like the simple moments. Like for me lately, it's been going to hot yoga,
mm.
or going on a run. And I think talking about that is also important because at the end of the day, we need people that are, you know, engaged just in life in general, and able to find, find happiness in those things in order to, push for a better world for everybody.
Exactly. Well, speaking of the, like, people are over the performance, they're over,
Yeah.
the people trying to be authentic, but it not landing.
Yeah.
We're seeing, I think because of, campaigns like the New York City mayoral race
Yeah.
and I think also to an extent we've been telling, the left and the establishment, like,
Hmm.
yeah, you all need to, like, take it up a notch. Like,
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
over the boringness of how
Yes.
things have been going. Do you feel like it's do you feel like there's a genuine shift, or do you think it's still coming off as a little maybe disingenuine?
No, I think there is. I think last year was a wake-up call for everybody.
Mm,
I think there were so many people that were like, "Oh, he's not gonna win again." And then when he did, it was like, "Okay, like there needs to be real change here."
mhm,
Um, I think it's slow and it's hard, but when you see it on like the level of, the mayoral race in New York City, you're like, oh, like something is shifting here. And New York is like it's different than it's a huge city. It's the biggest city. But I do think like every single type of person lives in New York City, right? And
mhm,
so I do think it translates nationwide. And I think we are going to see in 26, all right, we have to do the work, obviously, that there is going to be that sort of wave. Um, but we have to like just be willing to go out there and do it. And I think young people are pretty engaged. I think that was a big thing in New York. And
mhm,
I feel like we say that every single election and then it like never really transpires. Um, but it did feel like in New York, like that was the first time it was like, oh, like young people really, really did this. And I think it gave a lot of
mhm.
people hope, and so I'm really hoping it does translate, and I think it will. I really do think it will. I think people are like, okay, like the time is now. It's now or never kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely preparing for how we keep that momentum up, through the next
Absolutely.
year. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, my plans haven't necessarily crystallized, but
Totally.
I feel really excited to, support, young people, especially in staying engaged throughout this coming year
Yes.
um, and yeah, not letting that fire that built, I think, in the latter half of 25, not letting that go out.
Yes. Absolutely. And that means standing for something, not just standing against something. And
$1,000%.
I think that's what we saw in New York. Like there was policies
Mm,
put forth that are going to make people's lives better, and it gave people something to fight for, not just something to fight against.
I'm
Because
so glad you said that.
I'm going to steal my dad's line here. He's like, fear is a great short-term motivator, which we see a lot on the right, but you have to like organize and do the work to make it, to make things long term. And that's what the left needs to do.
I'm so glad you said that because I think part of my
Mhm.
anger, my frustration, a year ago
Mhm.
after that big loss in
Yeah.
2024 was that so many, and I'll just say it, so many young people were motivated by fear and
Yes.
they were standing against something and thought it
Yep.
was principled um
Totally.
and I think it's backfired. And you mentioned like a lot of people, like young people were grieving, and I
Mhm.
I wonder if you feel like young people like that you've connected with are learning from that lesson.
I think so. In my experience, again, like it was that wake up call, and it was
Mm,
kind of like, okay, like we need to, make the changes here because this is, really bad. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump isn't going to be around in,
mhm.
25 years. We are.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so we have to, do the work to like create the world that we want because right now it feels like it's being torn down. Um, but there, that's also hopeful. He's not going to be around in 25 years like we are. And so we
Yes.
get to like we have that opportunity to create that world. And so that is kind of what I'm trying to focus on, like the what can we do here?
Mhm. And I think what I love about what happened in New York is that it made, like, even at that level, that
Mhm.
municipal level, um, it made governing cool. It made governing,
Yes.
like, sexy, and I think, a lot of my work has been in,
Mhm.
the organizing space, like grassroots movement
Yeah.
work, and I think one of our maybe mistakes over the last 5, 10 years, whatever, has been that we've disconnected governing and movement work. And I think
Yes.
now is the time to,
Yeah.
yeah, make how we want to govern, how we want to
Mhm.
hold power, cool again. And I think Zeron's campaign really did that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and they made it fun.
Yes. It was
Um,
like it was cool. It was so fun to watch from afar. I
it
was like, I wish I
was.
was there. I have like FOMO here.
I had such FOMO. Yeah, I was definitely one of those people, like, in New Mexico, like, "That's my mayor."
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of fun, speaking of joy as resistance, I wanna play a game. We're gonna do, like, a little trendy game,
Okay.
this or that, but it's gonna be
Okay.
skier edition.
Oh, yay.
Actually, I don't know this. How long have you been skiing?
I grew up skiing. I grew
Okay,
up like
that's
a
what I
couple
thought.
miles from like a tiny hill, but now
Okay.
I live in a mountainous place. So,
Very cool. Well, I grew up skiing as well. So I hope this is fun. Pow day or bluebird?
how?
Après ski or tailgate in the parking lot?
Tailgate in the parking lot.
I kind of figured. I kind of got that
I like
vibe
to
from
take a
you.
nap after I ski.
It's like the best sleep.
Yes.
Okay, icon or epic?
I got an icon this year,
Okay.
but it's the first year I've gotten a mega pass. Like I've never gotten one
Ooh,
before.
I'll give you some tips, my
Yes.
favorites. Yeah, I have like routes planned based on
Oh,
icon
fun. That's
icon
awesome.
mountains. Okay, dream ski location, Japan or Dolomites?
Japan, I'm actually going at the end of January, and that's why I got the icon pass.
Okay, we definitely need to
Yes.
talk. I have
Yes.
recommendations for Niseko. Are you going?
Yes, yes, that is where we're going
Amazing. Okay, first chair or last chair?
first.
This is where we differ, Hope.
Really? See, I like to be done by, like, 1.
I'm like, I want to see a sunset.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm also in New Mexico, so it tracks.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
totally.
Earn your turns or resort skiing?
See, I really wanna get into touring, but
Mm,
it's kind of a lot. Like, it's expensive,
it
and
is.
so I'll go with resort skiing, but I think, like, the sweet spot is right in the middle where you do both.
It is very expensive. Yeah, they need to fix that
I know, seriously.
because it's so good for you. It's like a full body
It is.
workout and it's
It
elevation training. It's all of it. It's
but
so
it's
good for you.
so inaccessible. That is like also that's like a random thing that I'm very passionate about, like access in outdoor spaces. So yes, I could
Mm.
go on for a long time about the inaccessibility of the ski industry.
Oh, same here, girl. I've been an ambassador with Native Outdoors for a while,
Oh,
and
really? Okay.
yeah. And that's all we try to do is make skiing more accessible to
Yeah.
Native kids.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
And do you
yeah.
ski at Taos? Is
I
that
I grew up skiing in Santa Fe. That's where I'm
oh,
from,
okay.
and but yeah, Icon Taos is on the Icon, so
Oh,
I go
okay.
to Taos. Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Have you been to that mountain?
I haven't, but I really want to. I follow this girl on TikTok that's a ski patroller there, and I'm like, "Oh,
Mm.
that looks so good."
Yeah, it's a beautiful it's steep. It's like
Yeah, I've heard that.
legendary for its
I've heard that.
steepness. Well, that's all I have for that game, but we're gonna
Yay, that
play
was awesome.
another game.
Sweet.
Okay, this one is a little more, like, introspective.
Okay.
Um, alright, so this is Jaded cards. What's one situation in your life where you knew exactly what you should do, but felt completely powerless to do it?
Ooh. I think there was honestly probably a lot of moments last fall where
Mm,
the answer to me was, like, pretty obvious, but just because of, you know, where we were at, we couldn't necessarily do certain things, and I say "we" a lot because I think the way I was raised was my family's like, "We do things together." So, when I'm
hmm,
saying "we," I'm, like, referring to my dad and I,
mhm,
um, but just I think moments where we're like, "Oh, this is what we should do," but just because of, the way the world works, we weren't able to do it. Um, I'm trying to think of, like, specifics here, um or things that really speak to me in that way. Um, but I think just generally like a lot in the past year. I started
mm.
going to therapy. This is my first time I'm like saying that out in the world. It took me a
Aw,
long time to want to go. And honestly, it might be that. I was like,
yeah,
I know I should go to therapy. I've been saying that for well over a year now.
mhm.
Um, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it until very lately. And like that was like a journey for me for sure.
Well, thank you for saying that here, and yeah, just I'm really honored you felt comfortable to share that,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm glad you are doing that. Yeah, I think for all of us, it's like we shouldn't, and
I know. Well,
what's gonna come up. I think, yeah,
it's
it can
so
be
taboo.
intimidating. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, I was dealing with the, like, "Well, I am, like, sort of a public figure. Do I trust people?" And then I'm like, "Well, they can't say anything." Like, what are all of my kind of rational thought went out the
Right.
window, and I was making excuses to not go. And then eventually I got to a point where I'm like, "I just have to."
Good. Well, I'm glad you're taking that, um, action to just prioritize your health and
Yeah,
your well-being. Okay, one more.
totally.
Alright, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna hold out 3 cards, and you tell me
Great.
which one.
Okay, I'll do the far one.
Alrighty. This one, right?
Yes.
Okay. This one's quite similar. I'm gonna ask it anyways.
Okay.
Ho how do you deal with powerlessness?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, including me, have felt very powerless in the past year.
Mhm.
And I find myself like turning towards community and doing work on like the ground level. Um, I've talked about this like quite a bit on my social media, but like doing work within your community and making people's lives better in your community is such a good way to one make a difference, but also like feel like you're making a difference and feel like there is hope for the future. Like I said, I work at a homeless shelter. We call it a warming center just because
Mm.
we only have the resources to be open at night and then for a couple hours during the day for like resource navigation.
Mhm.
Um, but I find myself like whenever I go into work, whenever I'm like leaving, then I feel so much better about the state of the world just because I see what doing work with, people on like a human level can do. Um,
Mhm.
and that really, really, brings kind of the power back to me and just the people around me and gives me hope going forward.
We've talked about your big platform and you've gotten, you've been blasted on Fox News and
Yeah.
the right media has come at you and I'm just curious, obviously you can't change, what the editorial
Yeah.
desk of Fox News wants
Yeah.
to do or what they say. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think I kind of surprise people when I say this, but like when it's coming from the right, I don't particularly care.
Love it.
I feel like I've been in this world long enough that I'm like, okay, these people aren't gonna like me no matter what I do and what I say. So
Mhm.
like whatever. Um, it's taken a lot of work, I think, to get to a point where it's like, okay, it doesn't really affect me. There are still times when people will comment something, and just because I'm like bored or something, I'll respond back. Um,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, like when I see that they've, talked about me, I'm like, oh, must be a slow news day. They must be bored. Like it doesn't honestly affect me that much. Because it's not people that, I'd want around me anyways. So I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. And also let them and, like,
Yes,
watch how unaffected by it you are. I think that that's
absolutely.
also yeah, that's also, like, a really great way to show your power in those moments.
Absolutely.
Well, okay, we're gonna wrap up, Hope, but before
Yeah.
we do, I wanna ask, the final question, which I ask every guest.
Okay.
And that is simply how do you move through jadedness or disillusionment? And what's your hack?
Yeah. I mean, this is gonna sound like so corny, but like movement has been
Mhm.
something that has really, really helped me. Um, I love going to like workout classes or running or hiking or skiing. Um, like just moving my body has been really, really grounding for me. I've also like reading fantasy and like
Mm.
romanticy has been a really fun thing. Um,
Yes,
but that like at the end of the day, kind of, looking inward and doing things that make me on like my very core level, personal level, happy, allows me then to like put positive energy out into the world and, you know, do good work and, make people's lives better, like the world around me a better place. Um, because I think you have to fill your own cup before you fill other people's.
of
Um,
course.
and so I really try to focus on that and knowing that everything will pass. I really,
Yeah,
really do believe like things will get better. We just have to, do the work to make that happen.
exactly. And I think one thing I've learned from you, in talking today is, like, giving yourself time, like you said,
Yes,
things will pass, but giving yourself time, like, it wasn't overnight that got through all the emotions of last year. It
absolutely.
took
And
it took
I'm
a year
still working
plus.
through it. Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
absolutely.
Well, nothing about that was corny. Also, I'm here for the corny.
Yes, good.
But thank you so much, Hope. This has been such a lovely conversation, and
Yes.
I'm
Thank you so
just
much.
really yeah, I'm so happy to connect, and we're all so
Yeah.
grateful, and
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you so much.
All
Let me
right.
know if you ever ski Big Sky.
Definitely, and yeah, I'll figure out how to send Japan Rex over to you.
Yes, I would love that actually. That's awesome.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Hope. Take
Bye.
care.
Hey everyone, I'm back. A lot has happened in the world since Hope and I last spoke, especially in Minnesota and for her family. So we thought it'd only be fair to catch up and have a follow up conversation. So here is a bonus segment with Hope. Hey, Hope. Thanks for
Hey,
coming back.
thank you for having me.
I saw a TikTok you posted recently, and you were talking about how MAGA, the Trump admin, is targeting your state.
Yeah,
And I wanted to ask you about that. What is it like to see what's happening in your home state just as a Minnesotan?
I've spent a lot of time in the Twin Cities and like that's what I consider home. And it is like the best of America. The state takes care of its people and its people take care of each other. Like the community, just everywhere in the state is unmatched and nothing I've ever experienced anywhere else. And so it's really hard to see the federal government targeting a place because it is so great and because it is so successful in all the ways that they, you know, deem unnecessary or whatever their reasoning is. And so it's sad because people are just trying to take care of each other. And I think people feel scared. And that is, you know, that's really hard to watch, especially when I'm not there. But I'm also like finding hope because I know like the people of Minnesota, like I trust Minnesota to get this right and to come out of it better and stronger.
Yeah, I can imagine it's really weird not being there right now.
Yeah. I saw a video, I think I was just scrolling yesterday. Someone was like, everybody has their own like place in activism. So some people's, you know, place is to show up to the protests. Other people's places is to donate. And so I'm really trying to keep like kind of that frame of mind in, knowing that I don't necessarily have to be there to make a difference. I can, you know, speak out using the platforms I have and do the work where I'm at. I was just driving back from hot yoga and there was one woman standing outside the courthouse here in Bozeman, Montana, saying like, we love Minneapolis. Like she was holding a sign that said, we love Minneapolis. And so like there's work to do everywhere. And so I'm trying to keep that in mind, knowing I can't be there right now.
Oh, that's just such a good reminder to
Yeah.
me and probably everyone listening that and that woman out there just kind of holding solidarity from a now red state, but hopefully purple soon.
Yeah.
And definitely, you know, I live in New Mexico, which I feel a lot of pride in my state. You know, we're similar to Minnesota, just really proactive on education. You know, we have free childcare in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So things like this, where I feel like Minnesota keeps those kinds of things like a top priority. And
Absolutely.
obviously your dad has done a lot of work on those fronts. And so, yeah, just sending, I've been messaging all my Minneapolis Twin City friends, just checking in. And you're right. I think one thing we can do for each other is just like checking in on each other. So
Absolutely.
I hope you feel like this is a check-in on you.
Absolutely. For sure.
Well, and back to, you know, your community in particular with the infiltration of ICE. How is your community doing regarding that issue?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really hard right now, and I think it's really, really scary. I've, you know, seen people describe it as it feels like a war zone, which is just like insane to me, like knowing the Minneapolis I know. And it's like bizarre to see the federal government try to frame it as like their ICE is the one being attacked when literally everything and anybody with eyes and ears can like see that it is the other way around. So I think it's a very tense and scary time, but I think there's like members of Congress flew in. There's like 24 of them that are doing a hearing like in Minneapolis regarding this stuff. So I think like the country is mobilizing and I think Minneapolis is mobilizing and people are taking care of each other. And I think it feels maybe more hopeful now than it did a couple days ago.
That's really good to hear. And another big moment that's happened, and that is your dad's decision to not run for governor. So how are you feeling about that? Was that a surprise to you, or were you a part of the decision making?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when he was initially making the decision last August, he was very much on the fence. And I think him and his team kind of came to the conclusion that they thought that he would be best suited to run again. And then when we saw kind of the federal government turn a lot of their attention toward Minnesota and toward him specifically, as well as like some very real issues that are going on in Minnesota regarding fraud. But then seeing the federal government twist it and like create this entire narrative about things that were already being dealt with. I think he kind of just revisited like his decision and was like, maybe it's best if I don't. It's very clear Donald Trump has some weird, like thing going on regarding my dad. Wants revenge for something. I don't really understand because they won last year. So whatever it is, that became very clear. And I think we're still seeing that. And I think his like thought was if he stepped out of the race, there's so many incredibly talented and like worthy people that can step into the race and win because a Democrat will win next November. And so I think he thought if he's kind of stepped out of the race, some of the heat would maybe be taken off in Minnesota. Now we're not necessarily seeing that. But I think long term, he like politically, it was a better decision. And I think personally it was for him and our family as well.
Are you feeling a bit relieved about that decision, or kind of even like maybe some grief, like maybe you were looking forward to it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big decision, and it will, vastly change my family's lives. We were prepared to go all in on this election and hopefully win, and then do the work for 4 more years. And that's where my dad was at. And that was where my family was at. And then all of a sudden that's not the case. So you just kind of have to reframe your mindset of like what your life is going to look like going forward. So there is definitely some like adjustment with that. But I trust my dad to like know what's best for him and what's best for the state. And so I was going to support him either way. And it's like, okay, this is where we're at. We will, do the work in different ways. And like, I think that's also an opportunity.
Totally. And I know, there's that decision. And I feel like, this opens up a lot of different doors, and even, the possibility of some rest in your, your dad's life, but also the family. You all have been involved in politics for so long. I can imagine you're looking forward to a little bit of rest. But I was curious also, and I know this is a difficult question, but how are you feeling, right now? There's some folks out there calling for your dad's resignation or impeachment. How is that feeling right now? How are you navigating that?
Yeah, I think it's bullshit. Like, we have a president who is militarizing an entire like police force against its citizens. I think they should impeach Trump and remove Trump. I think it's projection. There's nothing there. So they can say and try to do what they want, but it's not going to work, and they're not going to win. So
period.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Yeah. I'm so glad you're just saying it so point blank.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more. Like, come on.
Yeah. Like,
this is crazy.
Yeah. There's, I think my dad even said this, like, if you have proof of anything, you should release that, but they're not going to, because there's nothing there. So they can send 23-year-old illiterate YouTubers to try to make videos and do whatever they want. But at the end of the day, Minnesota is a great place to live, and it's going to continue to be a great place to live.
I'm loving the energy you're bringing of just like calling out the bullshit, you know, just like really not putting up with some of the online attacks. Another reference to a video you made on TikTok, which I love your posts, by the way, if that's not already obvious. You had said in one recent video, you know, good luck, Donald Trump, because you said, I'm just getting started. And so can you speak to what you mean by that? And what are you excited about doing now that, you know, come November 2026, later this year, you won't have a parent in political office. And that maybe frees you up to say and do things that you might not have been so like inclined to do before.
Totally. Yeah. I think I'm pretty like candid and honest on the internet regardless. And like, that's a big part of who I am. And I care about doing that. And like, that's a big part of my platform. But at the end of the day, like my dad is still a governor. And so what I do reflects on him. And so I am careful sometimes with what I say or what I do or what I make statements on, just because even though that's not necessarily fair, that's just how it is. And so I think now that he's not running again, there's less kind of, you know, political factors playing into things. And so I'm freed up a little bit to potentially say or do things that I wouldn't do before, or like wouldn't feel like I was able to do before. And so whether that's, you know, speaking out on different things or just talking more about certain things or the language I use or, you know, what I do going forward, I'm just excited to have that opportunity. And I think my dad probably is too. I think that's an opportunity for him as well.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you had, I know one thing that you're kind of passionate about, and this speaks to, you know, how transparent and honest and real you are online is, you know, kind of combating this era of disinformation and misinformation and the quote unquote like post-truth, you know, online world that we're all navigating. Is that something that you're feeling called to continue to like push against and combat through putting out actual truthful stories and, you know, commentary?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think a bit like one of the big reasons why we are where we are as a country and what we see happening is because facts don't matter to a large, you know, swath of the country. That's also not necessarily that group of people's fault. I think the media and just the social media landscape has made it really hard for people to decipher what's real and what's not, and what's truthful and what's not. And so I think having voices out there that are, you know, reasonable and supported by facts is like really important going forward. And I'm just like one super tiny piece in that. It's going to take, you know, a lot of people to fight back against this misinformation, disinformation, just blatant rejection of truth. But if I can play even a tiny part in that and like be a reasonable face, I want to be a part of that for sure.
That's amazing. I know you will be, and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
I guess final question here.
Likewise.
Oh, thank you. What are you excited about or looking forward to this year so that we can hopefully get out of this, you know, really this position I think a lot of us feel in, which is like kind of stuck and like, okay, when is it gonna like really change? Like, what are you excited to do so that we can get there, hopefully at the end of this year?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's midterms, and the midterms will happen. Like I have to believe that.
Yes.
And we have an opportunity to completely strip this crazy man that is our president of power. If we can, you know, flip the House, potentially the Senate, like that takes a lot of things away from him. And that I think is like of the utmost importance. It's also hard though, I think, to motivate people because that's in November and like people are dying right now. So I think in that regard, like just showing up for your community, doing work where you're at. I've seen a lot of creators like speak out about what's happening in Minneapolis and post links to like mutual aid or donating to food banks or restaurants that are helping protesters and families. So I think that is like a big thing. And I think you find hope when you lean into your community in that way. And then this is like going to sound very cliche, but like you have to fill your own cup before you fill other people's. So I'm really focusing on like my own self-care and like being 100% for myself so I can be 100% for my community. And I think that's something that's often overlooked in like activism and in times of hardship. But even if it's like 30 minutes a day where you take care of yourself, that then leaves 23 and a half hours for you to give to everybody else. And that's important.
Yes. Very, very wise words. I feel like this generation, like your generation, my generation, were really cognizant of that aspect of, as they say on the airplane, like the oxygen mask on us before we go to like put out all the fires. So
for sure.
Well, thanks so much for joining us again, Hope. And just really great to have this bonus segment so we can catch up on all the things that have happened recently.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.